So glad you are with us on the Retirement Playbook. Brad Johansson, Ed Botello, Wealth Max Financial Group. You good today?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, come on. Come on. We get up in the morning, it's all good. Look, I want to let you know something about Ed. Ed tends to hire athletes, and there's a reason for that. Grew up that way. Maybe I should let you tell me why you hire athletes. Former athletes. People who've been in the game.
Retired athletes.
Why?
Well, I think they understand what it takes to prepare, right? For those that they were with their peers, and maybe their peers were going out during the weekend, but they had to stay dedicated to their craft and really prepare and practice and understand the rules and the technique and how to really maximize their ability as an athlete. So I think when it comes to the athletic career of people, I think they start to develop traits that really just make successful people.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Okay. In your time, hockey player, right? Still a hockey player. I still count you as a hockey player.
Depends who you talk to, yeah.
Greatest piece of advice, the greatest tip you were ever given that you said, you know what, I will hang on to this for the rest of my days because this changed the way I looked at it?
In hockey?
Sure. You got something beyond that?
Wow, that's okay. So I would say have a plan and have a goal, right? If the goal is college hockey, or maybe just really good at high school hockey, or maybe it's pro hockey, right? That goal or aspiration is going to determine what steps you need to take. And so coaching hockey for 5 years at the high school level of Massachusetts, we always talked about what our goal was that year, whether it was to make the playoffs. And that usually what was the goal. We had a small school, trade school, so we had kids who were electricians and plumbers playing hockey, right? And so it wasn't a private school at all. But our goal was to make the playoffs. And so we had to practice to make the playoffs. We had to watch film in order to make the playoffs. And we did. We made the playoffs a few years, actually 2 out of the 5 years that I were there, which that high school never made the playoffs until I got there, Brad.
So I'm doing this to kind of set Ed up because I want to do a show today on what are the best tips that you need. Look, you've been doing what you've been doing for decades, 30, 40, some of you longer than that. You've been disciplined at getting up in the morning or getting up late at night because you're on third shift, and you've been doing, and you got really good at it. I mean, after 40 years, you got really good at it. Now you're being asked to do something to take you into the rest of your life, and you've never done it before. You're going to retire, and you only want to do it once, and you want to do it the right way. And maybe you need to set a goal as to how it's going to go. So I'm going to set a show up today, Ed, on retirement tips. And I'm not even going to give you a whole list, but I'm going to start probably with one that most people are going, already screwed this one up. Start early.
Yeah.
Most of us don't start until they tell us, goodbye. You're done. Here's your cake. No more paychecks.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What does starting early mean to retirement?
Start now, right? Erase early. Start right now, right? And so whether you're 20 years, 10 years, understand when you want the desire to make work optional, right? Turning it off. Start now. Start developing a plan that's going to get you to that point. Therefore, you don't have to wake up early in the morning and go to work for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Now your assets pay for your lifestyle, your Social Security, your pensions, your 401ks, your IRAs. You need to start developing a plan on how you're going to replace that, right? I speak to a lot of people, Brad, about retirement planning. Yeah, so I've been doing this for over a decade, and we're seeing about 20 people a week, 20 new people a week in regards to retirement planning, okay? And every single one of them says, I wish I started taking all of these topics a little bit more serious. And it's okay, but starting today and starting now with a comprehensive written financial plan is #1 tip on my list. Get a notebook. We have a list of these things. My #1 tip, my #1 recommendation Start now.
Today is the day. All right. You said set goals. You set goals for your hockey team that we're going to make the playoffs. What does setting goals in retirement look like?
Setting so let's talk about pre-retirement first, right? If you're still working 5 to 7 years, especially if you're 59 and a half, what's 59 and a half? They start giving you access to move some of these dollars and start planning. Without penalties. Without penalty, right? No penalty, no taxes involved. And so you want to start setting goals right now in regards to how much you need for retirement, income-wise, asset-wise, right? How much you want to travel, right? Think about paychecks and think about how much you want to play. You're going to need a paycheck. Those are the goals that you need to start planning for, right? Everybody talks to me about, this is what I need to survive, but what do you want to survive? How many times do you want to go visit the grandkids? How many times do you want to go on vacation? Do you want a boat in retirement? Do you want an RV? Do you want a camper, a motorcycle? Or are we starting to sell these assets because you just didn't plan? Okay. All right. We're setting goals. Now we're tracking spending. I suppose if you're setting goals, that means, okay, if I'm going to do this, I've got a budget for what it's going to look like? Yeah, so it's almost like running a race without knowing anything about the track, right? You got to know about the track. Does it have hills? How long, right? Is there sun? Is there shade? These are things that marathon runners investigate. They study before running a race. And the first thing that we're going to talk about before running your retirement race is your spending. What are you spending the most money on? What are you spending money on? People sometimes forget the hidden cost of life. What's that? Birthdays, parties, reunions, things that happen all the time that you're maybe not thinking about needing money for or income for. But birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, these holidays cost money. And so these are some things that some people kind of forget as they start doing retirement planning. Okay. How about an emergency fund? Because if we're dealing with fear in retirement, it's always about, okay, what's going to happen? What if the next shoe drops? What emergency is going to befall me because, man, I'm unlucky in life, or whatever that attitude may be. Yeah. Is it logical to be able to say I should be setting up an emergency fund in retirement? You need one, right? You need access to 6 to 12 months of living expense. Okay, and it might not just be for living expense. 6 months minimum? 6 months minimum, right? 6 months minimum. And it doesn't have to be in a checking account, right? There's other liquid abilities for emergency funds, right? But you need liquid dollars. We always talk about 3 buckets of money, the 1 to 3 year, the 3 to 9 year, and the 10 year plus. And that 1 to 3 year is kind of your liquid emergency fund. What happens if the roof gets a leak, right? What happens if you need new doors and new windows? And now everybody that is a pre-retiree, we always talk about with my clients, start doing those things before you retire and you're in your peak earning years. Let's start entering retirement not needing a new roof, a new door, a new window. So these are some of the things that people don't really think about as they prepare for retirement. Last one before we go to break. I'm in debt. I'm afraid to tell you I'm in debt, but I'm in debt. Do I have to pay off debt before I go into retirement? You don't have to pay off debt. I always talk about there's 3 types of debt. There's high interest rate debt, there's low interest rate debt, and then there's no debt. High interest rate debt is not a good form of debt. We want to eliminate all high interest rates debt, okay? Low interest rate debt is sometimes better than no debt. Some people think they need to enter retirement with no debt. Well, guys, if you have an interest rate on your mortgage of 2-3%, do not quickly pay off that mortgage. Please do not. Don't start making extra payments because you're planning on retirement. There's strategies that a lot of my clients use where they have a actual mortgage the whole length of time in their retirement. So paying off debt, you want to make sure that you're not going in there with 20, 22% interest rate debt, right? You want to refinance that debt, and we help you do that, okay? But low interest rate debt is better sometimes than no debt at all. Maybe it's time for you to refinance your retirement. Maybe it's time for you to put together a retirement playbook. And maybe you're hearing some things that you go, my advisor never talked to me about this.
Well, it's different because he's fiduciary and independent and understands what you are going through. As he said, just 20 appointments this week. That's a standard. Been doing it for more than a decade. If you haven't done this yet, wouldn't you want somebody who's been through it hundreds of times? How about a complimentary written financial plan for you? That's part of your retirement playbook, and you can make that call right now. You have to do it now. 844-837-3643. Maybe you've been watching for a while and go, I'll call later. Do it now. Don't put this thing off. 844-837-3643. You're not being sold anything. You're giving a complimentary written portfolio review, all for you. You want to take it to somebody else and go, how come you never talked to me about this? Maybe it's time for your second opinion. Get your retirement playbook now. Be right back.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Glad you're with us on the Retirement Playbook. Brad Johansson, Ed Battalo, Wealth Max Financial Group. We're talking about tips, retirement tips. We're going quick to give you an idea of all the things that may need to go into your playbook. And maybe you need to make that call today for a complimentary written financial plan. Let me go to savings because we talk about this all the time. You say automate savings. Why?
It's almost like when your sink is just dripping water, and let's just say into a cup, and seen
this.
Yeah, and so the first few drips, you're like, well, this is going to take a while, but after a few hours, the cup becomes full. And so when you're working and you start paying yourself first, and you start, contributing to these accounts, and make sure that you're using the right account. Just because your employer is offering you a 401k, maximize the match. But there's other accounts that just require a little bit of research, a little bit of understanding that may and probably is more beneficial for you. But automate your savings, right? Don't start thinking about, hey, I'll save at the end of the month, or I'll put in, because life happens.
So if you automatically do this, then you don't think about it because that becomes part of your discipline.
Yeah, it's pay yourself first, right? I always talk about you work an 8-hour day, 9-hour day. The first hour of your day should be paying you, paying your future you, paying that emergency fund, building that up to 6 to 12 months. That first hour of every day, if you're a pre-retiree, needs to be about paying yourself first.
You go to the next one, which says, I love this, avoid lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
Which is?
Well, what happens, Brad, is people start making more money right before they retire. The most money they've ever made. And so their income starts to creep up. All of a sudden, their income is 6 figures or,
beyond.
Yeah, beyond. And so they start living a lifestyle that they didn't build their assets to afford in the last 25 years, right? They start making really good income in the last 5 of working years, but their assets can't support that lifestyle. We call those lifestyle creeps, okay? Where we have to avoid those, okay? We do, Brad.
All right, avoid the creeps. How about staying healthy? Well, what do you mean staying healthy? Of course I want to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Why does this have to be a discipline?
Well, staying healthy, I am a big advocate of staying healthy. Okay, go to the gym, work out, exercise, hydrate yourself. Well, what does that have to do with my retirement plan? Well, it's going to make your retirement plan last longer, but it's also going to avoid your health cost in the future, right?
What's the average in your state now of long-term health care, of monthly health care?
Yeah, $13,500 per month is the average long-term care cost in the state of Rhode Island. And in 20 years from now, when all my clients are going to need it, we're preparing for a $25,000 cost on a monthly basis. And so staying healthy, working out will reduce the amount of health costs that we need, right? And so when I talk about healthy lifestyle, it's not only the health of your portfolio, right? You want to make sure that your portfolio is healthy, but you also want to make sure that you're healthy because you're your best and most important asset.
When we talk about that, and probably some statistics beyond the money, is the fact that, look, the word is that anybody over 65, and we're having people turn 65 on the daily. What is it, 11,000?
10,000 65-year-olds a day.
Goodness gracious. And 7 out of 10 of those who turn 65 are going to need some form of long-term care.
Yeah.
Those are bad odds.
Yeah, that's the actual statistics. So 7 out of 10 people need to plan. The problem is we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know if you're going to need long-term care. So you have to plan for that to be a possibility in the end of your playbook, right? If we're looking at your game, right? We don't know if at that end, that fourth quarter, you're going to need some long-term care.
Okay, all right. I want to hit a catch-up one. You say catch up if behind, and for most of us, we're probably going into this feeling like we're behind already. Like, I haven't done enough. I didn't do all these disciplines before. I didn't start early. I didn't save quite enough in my 401k. I didn't really even know about the 401k. All of these excuses of saying, you know what, I'm embarrassed because I don't have enough. What's catch up if behind?
So remember when I talked about the income or lifestyle creeps?
Yep.
Right? So those people who are making more money now than they ever have before as they start to approach retirement, right? In the last 10 years, you're probably going to be making the most income that you've ever made in your whole career. And so those are the opportunities where you don't increase your lifestyle, you actually start catching up because you didn't start as soon, right? So in the last 10 years of retirement, this is where we get to start planning and making adjustments to help your retirement plan become maximized, right? We start maximizing your wealth. That's why I named my firm Wealth Max Financial. And so when you come into our office and have a written financial plan, especially for those who are pre-retirees, we start talking about what to do with that extra income that you're receiving to maximize your retirement. And a lot of the times it's catch-ups.
And speaking of catch-ups, for those who are over 50, they may not realize that they can do some catch-up plans within their contributions at this time?
Yeah, they get an extra $7,000 at least, and in the Roth, they have an extra $1,000. There's more money to be put into these accounts when you turn 50, right? A lot of people think, well, there's an advantage, right? You get to put more money than people who are under 50. So
we don't get a whole lot of advantages. If you've got one, you might want to take it. And here's the advantage now. If you just happen to be walking by the TV and you said you turn this on and you go, I haven't been hearing many of these tips from my advisor, or I hadn't heard it before from anyone. Matter of fact, I'm doing it myself. And now I'm getting scared that I haven't done it very well myself. Maybe now's the time to get a complimentary written financial plan. It doesn't cost you anything, but it may save a huge cost down the road. To come in and talk to Ed at 844-837-3643. Maybe you haven't done anything right. Maybe you've done a few things right, but so much you feel like I'm embarrassed by where I stand right now, and I don't know whether I can do it. So wouldn't you like some help? How about a second opinion? 844-837-3643 from someone who's been doing it for more than a decade and sees hundreds of these plans every year. You deserve that for yourself. You deserve a retirement playbook that's going to go into and through retirement so you'll have money until your last breath. When would you like to know? make the call now. Be right back.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there or be square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Glad you're with us on the Retirement Playbook. Brent Johansson, Ed Botello, WealthMax Financial Group, and we're going through some retirement tips, maybe some of them that you haven't heard. Hopefully you got a notebook in front of you. Hopefully you're writing them down. We've got a few more to go before we head out. You talk about balancing risk and safety. We've done this in many shows before. Why is this so important now in retirement, Red Zone?
Yeah, right now is the most important time to start understanding what your risk is, right? So every time a client comes in with a portfolio, by the way, they think that's the plan.
Sure they do.
It's not the plan. It's just where their assets are, okay, how it's being invested.
And most of them don't even know what they're in.
Correct, okay? And so when they come in, when prospects or clients come in, every single time we grab their portfolios and we assess, we analyze how much risk they're taking with a score, 1 to 100. Let's keep it simple. 1, no risk at all, right? We're in a bank account, okay? 100, we're in, startup companies, IPOs, right? We're really, really risky. Where do you want to be in that temperature, right? Do you want to be in the 50s? Do you want to be in the 80s? Every single person is entirely different. And so assessing your risk, we talk about the market, we talk about the volatility. We know that the market's going to do 2 things, go up and go down. And so right now the market's been going up. The last 13 out of the last 15 years have been green, okay? Not always like that.
No, it's not always like that. All right, let's move to, you say talk to family. Why is this a tip?
Yeah, talking to family is so critical in the sense of those are the most important people around you in retirement. In fact, those are going to be the majority who is around you in retirement. And so you want them to understand a little bit about your retirement plan. Maybe you're going to leave them some assets. Maybe that's a goal of yours, an aspiration. Well, that needs to be talked about because if you're leaving them IRA assets, well, guess what happens? They're taxed on that. So I understand you're leaving them money, and you might think that that's a good thing, and it is a good thing. But it can be a better thing if it's positioned properly, right? And so they need to understand what you're going to do for them and what they need to do for you to help you in retirement.
All right, this is another discipline tip. You say avoid early withdrawals.
Yeah. So I'll take it a step further. When you're pre-retiree and you're still working, try to avoid it, right? And that's why we need the emergency fund, right? We talk about that early on in the checklist, that we need 6 to 12 months of emergency fund. Therefore, we don't have to pull from our retirement assets early on. But now let's talk about in retirement, early withdrawals. Well, we don't want to be pulling too much early on in retirement because we don't know how long we're going to live. And so we may need some of those assets later on in life, where if we take too much now, might not be there when we need it.
And there may
on.
be penalties involved with that as well. All right, stay invested. I guess 2025 is the time for us to go, really? Okay. Yeah. Why stay invested?
Because we know one thing that the market does do well long term. And so nothing beats inflation like the stock market. Nothing accrues like the stock market, right? And so we need to stay invested, maybe not with all of our money, right? And again, we talk about the 3 buckets, short term, middle term, and long term. That long term bucket needs to be equities, needs to be in the stock market. We trust the stock market long term. We might not trust the stock market in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, and that's where diversification comes in. That's where analyzing the risk that you have in your portfolio, which is why you need your advisor, which is why you need to right now start thinking about where am I invested, how much risk am I taking on in my portfolio, okay? And so early withdrawals pre-retirement, and even in retirement, can't hurt you.
I want to hit a couple more before we go. Prepare for longevity. We've kind of talked about this as well, right? I mean, we're living longer.
Yeah.
So it may be 30 years in retirement. How do you prepare for that?
Oh, before we came in here, we were watching videos of 80 and 90-year-olds.
Doing 100-yard dashes.
100-yard dashes, right? And so you probably didn't see that 30 years ago. We're living longer. AI is involved, okay? People are living longer. They're gonna keep you alive. And so you need to keep your assets alive. And that requires a plan. That requires a playbook. That requires a written financial plan, okay? Have you ever shot an arrow to no target? No, right? So we need a target. We need to understand we're not just hoping. We need a plan. We need a direction. We need a target.
And I suppose what you're saying in all of these tips is there are so many things that go into that plan.
Yeah.
Which is why just sitting with a portfolio may be the biggest mistake that people have right now.
Yeah, there's so many things that go into a plan, but we want to, the next tip is simplify. Simplify and develop. Simplify and develop a plan. You don't want 4, 5, 6 401ks. You want one individual retirement account, right? You want to make a plan, you want an income distribution, and you want to have it simplified.
How about we simplify it for you? How about you make the call to 844-837-3643, your complimentary written financial plan. You've waited long enough. Let's make retirement last. Let's make your retirement playbook a winner. 844-837-3643. Thanks for spending time with us here. Can't wait to see you in the office, and we'll see you right back here next time on the Retirement Playbook.